I want to talk today about 5 things I wish I knew at age 20. That was 5 years ago for me. I know, with these crow's feet and this receding hairline, you'd think I'd be a lot older, but I'm only 25. So I wanted to go back in time and maybe 5 things I'd tell myself at 20. And now, obviously, I'm a younger guy, so if you're watching this and you're 45, I wouldn't take these things and be like, well, it's too late for me, because I think that at 45, I'm expecting myself to continue to learn new things, hopefully. Hopefully at that point, I don't know everything. I mean, I'm sure I'll get to that point sometime, but 45 seems a little young. But seriously, I wanted to talk about 5 things that I wish I knew at age 20. I have them written down here. The first thing I think is going to be pretty obvious to most people that watch this channel, and it's going to be I wish I was involved with minimalism at that time. For me, minimalism has been this rapid change that's happened in a short amount of time, but then also when I look back, it's kind of been a long amount of time. It's been almost 2 years at this point, about a year and a half, where I become a minimalist. I don't love using that word because it seems super pompous, but that's, guess what I am. And it's changed my life pretty dramatically. The way that I operate, the way that I purchase goods, the way that I keep my house clean, basically. It has really changed the way I do a lot of things. And I definitely wish I would have gotten to this a lot younger, because I feel like a lot of the mistakes I made that brought me to minimalism, or what we commonly know now as minimalism. I wonder what people in the 1930s would even think about us calling ourselves minimalist. They'd be like, yeah, that's just normal. That's probably what it would be like in a less consumerist and more capitalistic society. But I do really wish I could go back in time and maybe change some of the mistakes I did end up making, whether it be financially or whether it just be on more of an emotional level or a stress level, whatever it may be. Minimalism to me, keeping my house a lot cleaner, having a lot of things cluttering up not only the house, but also like my brain and my life. These things have made it a lot easier, I think, to be just a human. And I feel like I could be a better human now that I am practicing minimalism, or at least making sure that I purchase goods that I desperately need and not just things that I want just for the sake of wanting. The next thing is obvious if you watch this channel, again, for a long time, and that's working out. I'm somebody who has definitely struggled with my weight in the past, even now. Maybe to you, I look skinny, or to you, I look fat. But for me, I'm like 15 pounds too heavy right now. I'm going to blame COVID, but it's not COVID's fault. It's 100% on me. And when I was younger, I used to weigh 220 pounds. I'm 5'9", 5'10". I currently weigh like 185 to 190, somewhere in that range. It sort of fluctuates. And that's a little heavy for me. 170 to 165 is a pretty comfortable weight for me. But back then, I was really heavy, 220 pounds. I was really unhappy with the way I looked. I hated buying clothes, or if I did buy clothes, I kept having to buy a size bigger, it seemed like. And I would never talk to women. I never put myself out there on any level, not just an emotional level, but I never tried anything because I was fat and I was afraid of the fact that I was fat. So I didn't want to try anything new because I was just a fat guy, and that's how I viewed myself. I never viewed myself as somebody that could make a YouTube video, or somebody that could be a minimalist, or somebody that could be skinny, because I was a fat guy. That's who I was. I now know that that was definitely really wrong. But working out to me is something that I am not that consistent with, but I do wish I could go back in time and tell myself just like, hey, put down the food, start working out a little bit more consistently. It'll drastically change your life. I did ultimately lose weight around 20 or 21. I think late 20, early 21, somewhere in that area. And I dropped a significant amount of weight. I dropped like 40 or 50 pounds. I got down to like 170. I bounced back up a little bit now, but I think that working out has been a pretty big part of my life, and I do wish that I would have been doing that for a lot longer. In fact, if I could go back to when I was like 12 and tell myself to like make sure you're always conscious about how much you're eating and how much you're working out, that I think would help me out a lot. I know it'd help out a lot of other people, because I know a lot of other people struggle with this, but it's definitely something I wish I'd go back and tell myself back then. The next thing is when I was in college, this is that same time, I was pretty confident in my ability to do well in school. I always thought school was pretty easy. I don't think it was because that I was like a genius. I always just sort of knew how to play the game of school, whether it be how many classes I could miss, or figuring out the weighting of tests and the weighting of extracurriculars in the classroom. I'd figure out what had the most value and put my effort into that, the little effort I did give. So if tests were 70% of the grades, I'd make sure I do get A's on all my tests, and then I just had to do average on everything else. I could get 50% on everything else and still get like a B plus in the class. So I wish I could go back in time and say, listen, that's how you're going to do school. I don't think school is necessarily that important for me, but in your off time, instead of just like lounging around and watching TV and play video games, maybe take that time to learn a lot more. I wish I could go back then and just slap myself once or twice and be like, listen, dude, just take this time to learn more. Learn more about things you're curious about, that you have questions about, that you think might be right but could be wrong. Just learn more, because at that time, I could have learned a lot. I had a ton of free time, and I just wish I would have spent my time a little bit more efficiently learning new things that I currently know now that I wish I could have known a lot sooner, because I think my choices that I would have made would have been a lot better. And I think it's important for humans to learn as much as they possibly can. We owe it to ourselves to do the best that we can. Society will benefit from high performers, it always has, but we would benefit personally from us becoming a high performer. And that's something that I don't think I'm quite there even yet. I think I'm on my way, hopefully, but I do wish that I could go back in time and be like, listen, Scott, just learn more outside of class. Just because you get A's and B's doesn't mean you're doing well, like intellectually. It just means you're good at playing the game. So I wish I could go back then and be like, listen, you need to learn about X, Y, and Z. Really focus on those topics. And I think that now I would have made way better decisions back then. I lost some money in the stock market because I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I made bad decisions beyond financially in my life. And I just wish, I know that that's part of it, but looking back at it, I wish I didn't have to make those, because some of those decisions definitely hurt a little bit more than other decisions. So I do definitely wish that I could go back in time and be like, listen, dude, just learn more. Be curious. Don't just worry about like, when's the next party? When's the next time I'm going to drink? Really make sure you take advantage of that time to learn new things beyond school, because school is a very limited thought coming from very limited thinking people. I think not in a mean way. They're just, if you teach math, you teach math. That's all you really teach. It's not really something that pushes you on any other level except for in that class. So I wish I could go back in time and just make sure I took the opportunity I had and all the free time to go learn or go work or do something like learn a new skill, learn a new craft, whatever that may be. The next thing would be to take accountability for my life. And I think that this is easy when you're young, because you never have to take accountability because your parents do for you. I think in most cases, like, you can always sort of blame them, but it's your fault. It's your life. I've been the one to subscribe, like, you don't determine how you start, but you determine how you finish. And I think that for me, that mindset has really helped me out in the last couple of years, taking advantage of my financial life, not just going, well, this is just how it is, making decisions for myself that are actually really good decisions that anybody that wants to do well financially would be doing. And I think that taking that accountability and knowing that it's your fault, it's not the government's fault, it's not some rich guy's fault, it's your fault that you're in the position that you're in. And the only way to get out of that position is to fix what's wrong with you. So a perfect example would be golf. I was never the best golfer growing up. I was never the most naturally gifted. And there were times where I just blamed my parents because I wasn't good enough. I wish they would have paid for lessons when I was younger. They should have bought me better clubs. But in college, I got to this point where I was like, well, it's my fault. I should just go to the range more and get better. And I ended up being like the best golfer in the history of my college. It was D3, but D3, I was the best nonetheless. So I think that it's important for me to learn to take accountability for myself and my actions. And I do wish that I could go back in time and be like, listen, Scott, it's your fault you're overweight. It's your fault you don't know as much as you could. It's your fault for all of these things. And it was nobody else's fault. Because at the end of the day, it's only your fault. No matter what society will tell you or what social media will tell you, it's your fault that things are the way that they are. Some people have it a little harder than other people, but at the end of the day, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And I think that mentality could help a lot of people out, learning that the fact that it's like, take accountability for your actions, because I know that for the longest time I never did. It was always somebody else's fault that I was fat. It was always somebody else's fault that I was bad with money. It was always somebody else's fault that my room was messy. I never had any clean clothes. But at the end of the day, it was always my fault. Looking back at it, I'm the one that made all the mistakes. But I've also learned from those mistakes, and I want to be a better person than I was yesterday, the day before, the month before, the year before, the decade before. So I think that would really have helped me out a lot. I'm still learning all these things for sure. And the final thing would be financial minimalism. I've made a couple videos about this. I'm big into numbers. I'm big into finances. I've always enjoyed numbers. I've always been good with numbers. And I do wish I could go back in time and just be like, listen, This is how money works. There are so many things you're doing wrong that you've been told were the right thing to do, and you shouldn't listen to them. These things, I think, are tough. A lot of these things are tough because you're sort of breaking the mold of society. If you look at the average American, it sort of almost checks every single one of these boxes. They don't take accountability. They blame the government for everything. They overconsume. They're terrible with their money. They're out of shape. All these things sort of are like basically what we're taught. And I think that it's important to realize that a lot of those things are wrong, and it's okay to buck the norm and be the weird one. And financial minimalism for me, I desperately wish I would have done this back in the day, because I had a decent amount of money saved up because I had worked all the time. I would work during Martin Luther King Jr. Day. I would work during spring break, winter break, summer break. I worked every second that I could work, whether it was my choice or not. And I had a bunch of money saved up, but I didn't know what I was doing. I was 20 years old, 18, 19, 20, 21 years old, and I blew all of it. And I wish I could go back in time and be like, listen, there are a few things that you can invest your money in now, or at least learn how money works a little bit better so I don't just have it slip through the cracks. And though that would have really helped me, I think that would help a lot of people now currently. I think it still would help me. I think I can always be better, but I do think that this is something that a lot of people struggle with. I know in America today, the amount of debt we have is overwhelming. It's like $14 trillion, not including homes or something like that, or including home loans. It's $14 trillion, including student loans, auto loans, credit card loans, and home loans. And that's insane. That's so much money. That's why when the economy crashes this next time, and it's going to crash because of the inflation, it's going to hurt everybody really, really bad, because everybody is sort of basing their whole life off of debt. So I'm definitely nervous about this next crash, and I think it's going to hurt. This is going to be on par with probably like a 1920s Great Depression, and I hope it's not, but it probably will be. So the best thing you can do is try and prepare yourself now for that to come. That's my advice. I hope I'm wrong, but I kind of doubt I am because of all of the signs. It's like a worse 2008, 2007. So those are my things that I wish I could go back and tell myself at age 20. A lot of these, I really wish I could go back and tell myself at age 15, but I feel like that'd be a little pompous, because a 15-year-old Scott probably wouldn't listen to a 20-year-old, 25-year-old Scott, but a 20-year-old Scott might. So hopefully you guys gather something from this video, got something from this video. I think the key is, at the end of the day, is take accountability for your actions and try and get into habits that are positive, whether it be working out, managing your money in a fiscally responsible way, whether that be making sure you're taking the opportunity that you have to learn more. Instead of watching the NFL or the NBA, maybe read a book, listen to a book. And there's this new app I found, Libby, Libby. I'll link it down below. It's like you can download free books from any library if you have a library card or something. It's the greatest thing ever. I would definitely suggest signing up for it. I've been using that like crazy since I've discovered it like a week ago. It's been awesome. I've been listening to a lot of great books, and I hope you guys should definitely download that. They're not a sponsor, and they never will be because I don't do sponsorships, but it's definitely a good app. I definitely would suggest downloading it. A lot of people don't have the commutes anymore, but we're working from home, so you have the opportunity to listen to something at home on some loudspeakers. Pop it on, just let it sit in the background, and it'll help you think a little bit more beyond just like work, beyond like video games. So thank you for watching the video. This has been Scott. I hope you enjoyed it. Sometimes I ramble. I apologize for that. I'm in a new office. I'm really struggling getting it all situated. I'll get it situated shortly. Hopefully maybe like an office tour if you guys want to see that. It's nothing too fancy. It'd be pretty minimal with all the stuff I have, but I got some cool things. Hopefully maybe you guys would think it's cool. So thank you guys for watching the video. Again, I'm Scott. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.